Hey, anxiety, I see you, I feel you, but you don't run the show.
That's the spirit.
Acceptance, reframing, and then distraction, all working together to give you back that sense of control. Ever feel like anxiety's got you cornered? Like it's stopping you from doing like the simplest things everyone else just seems to do, like going to the store, getting a haircut, even just enjoying a concert with your kid. You're not the only one. Today, we're really going deep on this one, folks. We're diving into Barry McDonagh's Dare, the new way to end anxiety. We're going to break it all down. His strategies, how to get a handle on anxiety, and hopefully even help you get some of your freedom back, whether it's those full-on panic attacks you're dealing with, or social anxiety, or even just like that constant worry that never lets up.
Yeah.
Well, our goal today is to give you something you can actually use, some real takeaways, and maybe a new way of thinking about this whole thing. You know, anxiety, it's something so many of us deal with.
You know, it's pretty cool how McDonagh kind of turns everything on its head. Instead of telling us to fight anxiety, he's like, hey, let's get to know it. Let's learn how to manage it. He makes it feel normal, like it's not a sign of weakness or anything. He says it's just like a side effect of our body's survival instincts, those old ancient ones.
It's like our inner caveman is still freaking out about saber-toothed tigers, but these days, it's just a traffic jam setting him off. Or a deadline at work, Our fight or flight response is stuck in overdrive.
Totally. It's like a car alarm that goes off every time you hit a tiny bump in the road. That's what anxiety often feels like, Our body is like, danger, danger. But it's really just like everyday stress, not a life or death situation.
So how do we turn off this alarm? How do we tell our bodies to chill?
That's where McDonagh's idea of the anxiety loop comes in. It's this vicious cycle where we end up fearing fear itself, like a hamster stuck on a wheel, going nowhere fast. The more we try to fight it, resist it, the worse it actually gets.
And that's when it hits you, right? Like, oh, I get it. I am not my anxiety. It's not who I am. It's just those stress hormones messing with me.
Exactly. Think of those anxious thoughts like, spam emails,
Yeah.
They're annoying, they pop up when you least expect them, but ultimately they don't mean anything.
One story that really hit me was about this woman who felt completely alone because of her social anxiety. She thought she was the only one who felt that way, which of course just made her feel even more ashamed and isolated.
That's something a lot of people experience, unfortunately. But the truth is, you're definitely not alone in this. Millions of people deal with anxiety. When you realize that, it can be incredibly freeing.
It's like you're part of this huge community, and your anxiety doesn't define you.
Exactly. And that brings us to McDonagh's Dare response. It's like a toolbox, filled with practical ways to actually manage anxiety.
Okay, I'm all about a good acronym.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this DARE. How do these steps actually work? How do they actually help diffuse anxiety?
So first, you diffuse. You neutralize those what-if thoughts that can send you into a spiral. The ones that are like, what if this terrible thing happens? Think of those thoughts like bullies on a playground. Do you engage with them? Nope. You use humor, logic, or even just a so what attitude. You disarm them.
So instead of freaking out about having a panic attack in the middle of a meeting, it's more like, okay, even if I do, I've handled it before, I can handle it again.
Exactly. Next is allow. This is where you let the anxious feelings and thoughts just exist. You don't fight them. It sounds kind of backwards, but think of it like quicksand. If you struggle, you just sink deeper.
Like when you get caught in a wave at the beach, you don't try to fight it head on. You ride it out till it calms down.
Perfect analogy. Then comes run toward. Now, I don't mean you literally run into a dangerous situation, but you gradually expose yourself to things that make you anxious, but in a safe environment.
Okay, so if I'm terrified of public speaking, I'm not going to sign up for a TED Talk tomorrow. But maybe I'll practice in front of a mirror or share my ideas with a close friend. Baby steps, right?
Exactly. Small, manageable steps. And finally, engage. You shift your attention to something that truly interests you, something that pulls you in. Reading, listening to music, whatever genuinely captivates you.
It's like shifting the spotlight away from the anxiety and onto something positive and engaging.
You got it. And McDonagh tells some really inspiring stories in his book that showed this dare response in action. One that stood out to me was about this guy who used it to overcome his fear of driving. He went from being absolutely terrified to get behind the wheel to confidently driving on busy highways.
Now that's what I call reclaiming your freedom.
Yeah.
But let's get into the nitty-gritty. How does dare work with those physical symptoms of anxiety? The racing heart, the dizziness, that feeling like you can't breathe, those can be really scary.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of times, it's how we interpret those sensations that actually fuels the anxiety. We think a racing heart means we're having a heart attack when it's just our body reacting to stress. The key is to use dare even when those physical feelings hit.
Okay, give me an example. Say I'm feeling lightheaded and panicky.
Yeah.
How do I allow that?
Well, McDonagh actually suggests something pretty bold. He says, demand to faint. Sounds crazy, right? But think about it. You're basically calling anxiety's bluff. When you lean into the dizziness instead of fighting it, a lot of times you realize you don't actually faint.
It's like saying to your anxiety, okay, I see you, I feel you, but you're not in control.
Exactly. It's about taking back your power. And breathing anxiety, that's a big one. When you feel like you can't breathe, try not to panic. Instead, remind yourself that breathing. It's an automatic thing. Your body knows how to do it. Let those shallow breaths happen. They'll eventually even out.
Have you ever actually tried that?
I have, and it's really surprising how well it works. I used it once during a presentation. I was super stressed. By just letting myself feel those shallow breaths, I could stay focused, stay present, and the anxiety eventually just kind of faded.
Wow, that's amazing. A great example of how these counterintuitive techniques can be the most powerful. But what about the mental and emotional symptoms? Things like racing thoughts, intrusive thoughts, or that fear of losing control. How do we use dare for those?
Yeah, those mental symptoms, they can be really tough to handle. But the dare response, it can be a game changer there too. McDonagh says you should try to see those intrusive thoughts, like those annoying telemarketers, the ones that call you right in the middle of dinner. You don't engage. You don't give them the time of day. You just hang up. Humor, logic, distraction, whatever it takes to get those mental bullies off your back.
Love that. It's like saying, nope, anxiety, not today. You're not setting up shop in my head without paying rent.
Exactly. And if you're dealing with that fear, the one where you're afraid of going crazy, of losing control, just acknowledge it. Those fears are common, but they're not reality. You've gotten through anxiety before, and you'll get through it again. Remember those feelings. They're temporary. Just like a storm, they'll pass.
It's all about shifting your perspective, right?
Right.
Recognizing those scary thoughts for what they are. Just thoughts. They don't have the power we give them.
Right. And then there's that feeling of like derealization or depersonalization. That feeling of being detached from yourself or your surroundings. It can really mess with your head.
I can only imagine. Like watching your life happen, but not really being in it.
Yeah, exactly. But the important thing to remember is those sensations, they come and go. They're tied to your anxiety levels. As you use dare and start managing that anxiety, those feelings of unreality, they'll fade away.
So it's not about ignoring them, it's about understanding them. They're part of the anxiety cycle, and as you tackle the root cause, they'll lessen.
That's it. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's see how dare can be used for specific fears and situations. Those triggers out in the world that tend to send anxiety through the roof.
Now we're getting down to the practical stuff. This is about conquering those everyday anxieties that so many people face.
You got it. McDonagh has some great examples in the book. He talks about using dare for fear of flying, social anxiety, claustrophobia, even that driving phobia we talked about earlier.
Okay, lay it on me. Say I have a terrible fear of flying. How would I use dare while I'm on a plane to manage my anxiety?
Okay, so picture this. You're on the plane, and you start to feel that tightness in your chest, that familiar anxiety creeping in. Step 1, diffuse. Those what-if thoughts. Instead of going down the rabbit hole of what if the plane crashes, remind yourself, flying is statistically safer than driving. And even if something did happen, you can handle it. You're strong.
Okay, so you're using logic to fight back against those irrational fears. What's next?
Next up is allow. Let those physical sensations just be. The racing heart, sweaty palms, the whole 9 yards. Don't try to push them away, just acknowledge them. It's just your body's way of responding to stress, that's all.
Hey, anxiety, I see you, I feel you, but you don't run the show.
That's the spirit. Now here's the run toward part. Instead of trying to distract yourself, focus on the physical sensations of takeoff. The rumble of the engines, that feeling of being pressed back in your seat.
So you're leaning in, you're actively experiencing it, not trying to block it out.
Got it. And last but not least, engage. Dive into a book, watch a movie, anything to shift your attention away from the anxiety.
It's like a combo move, right?
Yeah.
Acceptance, reframing, and then distraction. All working together to give you back that sense of control.
You nailed it. And the more you practice dare in these situations, the easier it gets to manage that anxiety. It becomes second nature.
This is so empowering.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about those things we use to cope with anxiety, like medication or leaning on a loved one for support. McDonagh calls those crutches, right?
He does. And while they can be helpful in the beginning, he's clear. Eventually, you need to wean yourself off them if you want true independence.
Kind of like training wheels on a bike. They're good to get you started, but eventually you gotta let go to really experience the freedom of riding on your own.
Love that. And McDonagh tells this story about a man named Ian who gave up his biggest crutch, his wife. He realized that always relying on her to go places with him was actually keeping his anxiety alive. It was holding him back.
Wow, that must have been tough. But I bet it was liberating in the end for both of them.
It was, and it really highlights something important. True recovery isn't just about managing symptoms, it's about taking your life back. It's about being free to face challenges head on.
It's about empowering yourself to live fully without letting anxiety dictate your every move.
Exactly. And while giving up those crutches can feel scary, McDonagh gives you a plan. He shows you how to do it gradually and safely, starting with small steps.
Like slowly increasing the weight you lift at the gym. You start small and build your strength over time.
Perfect analogy. And he reminds us, setbacks, they're gonna happen. It's totally normal. It's all part of the process.
It's like learning to walk. You stumble, you fall, but you get back up and keep trying.
Right. And McDonagh actually wants us to change how we think about those setbacks. Instead of seeing them as failures, he wants us to see them as chances to learn and become stronger. He even uses this phrase, love the mat.
Okay, I gotta hear more about this love the mat idea. What's that all about?
Think about a martial artist. They get thrown to the mat all the time during training. It's just part of it.
It's how they learn to take a hit, get back up, and keep fighting.
Exactly. And McDonagh says we should approach our setbacks the same way. Don't get discouraged. Don't give up. See those setbacks as opportunities to learn and get tougher. It's about developing that resilience, that willingness to keep going even when things are hard.
So it's not about never getting knocked down. It's about knowing how to get back up, stronger than before.
That's it. And he has some great advice for handling those setbacks. First, be kind to yourself. It's easy to beat yourself up, but self-compassion, that's crucial.
So like, okay, I messed up, but it's not the end of the world. I'm learning, and next time I'll do better.
Right. And remember to focus on how far you've already come. When we have a setback, it's easy to dwell on what's not working. But take a minute to acknowledge your progress.
Celebrate the wins, even the small ones. Every step forward, no matter how tiny, is a victory.
Exactly. And use those setbacks to learn what triggered the anxiety. What could you do differently next time?
So it's like turning a setback into a valuable lesson, not just a defeat.
Exactly. And by doing that, you avoid making the same mistakes and keep moving forward on your path to freedom from anxiety. You know, we've talked about a lot of external and internal strategies, but McDonagh also emphasizes something else, getting to the root cause of the anxiety. And for him, that often comes down to a lack of self-love.
Yeah, that's a theme that keeps popping up. Why does he believe self-love is so crucial to dealing with anxiety?
He argues that when we don't truly love and accept ourselves, we're basically wide open for anxiety to take over. We're always looking for validation from others, we're way too critical of ourselves, and we're terrified of messing up.
That's like you're walking around with a bullseye in your back, just waiting for something to come along and knock you down.
That's a great way to put it. And so he suggests building up self-love as a way to create a strong foundation for managing anxiety. When you feel good about yourself, when you embrace your strengths and accept your imperfections, you're less likely to be thrown off by those triggers out in the world.
Like boosting your immune system, so you're less likely to get sick from those anxiety-inducing viruses floating around.
I love that. And remember, self-love isn't about being arrogant or egotistical. It's about recognizing your inherent worth, just as you are.
So how do you actually do that? How do you cultivate self-love? It can seem like such a vague concept.
McDonagh has some really specific suggestions. He starts with self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would give a good friend.
So it's like being your own best friend, offering yourself encouragement and support, even when you make mistakes.
Exactly. And he also talks about setting boundaries,
Right.
prioritizing your needs, making time for things that nourish you, mind, body, and spirit.
Right, taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's actually crucial for your well-being. And ultimately, that helps you manage anxiety better.
Absolutely. And McDonagh suggests things like meditation, mindfulness, spending time in nature. Those kinds of things can really help you cultivate inner peace and feel grounded, which helps buffer against those anxiety triggers.
It's like creating a peaceful space inside yourself, a refuge from the chaos.
It's beautifully put. He also encourages doing things that bring you joy. Listening to music, hanging out with loved ones, getting creative, whatever lights you up.
It's about filling your cup, so you have more to give to others and more to give to yourself.
I love that. And it's about celebrating those little wins, those moments when you face a fear, try something new, or just make it through a tough day.
Recognizing your strength and resilience, even when it feels hard to see.
You got it. He also has this really beautiful visualization exercise that can help cultivate self-love. Imagine standing under a waterfall of pure white light.
Okay, I'm picturing it now. It sounds incredibly peaceful.
It is. Find a quiet spot, close your eyes, take some deep breaths. As you inhale, imagine that warm, loving light washing over you. It's like all the stress and tension just melts away.
Like a spiritual reset button, a wave of positive energy washing over you.
Exactly. And as you see that light, say the words, "I love myself," on each inhale.
It's about infusing that self-love mantra with the power of visualization.
You got it. And do this regularly, even if it's just for a few minutes each day. He believes it can literally rewire your brain for more self-acceptance and inner peace.
Such a beautiful and powerful technique. But McDonagh doesn't stop there, right?
Yeah.
He also talks about lifestyle changes that can support mental and emotional well-being.
He does. And he's really big on the connection between our physical and mental health. So he offers some very practical advice for taking care of both our bodies and our minds.
Okay, I'm ready for some actionable tips. What does he recommend?
He starts with diet. He encourages people to focus on whole, unprocessed foods, fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains.
So basically fueling your body with good, clean energy.
Exactly. And he suggests limiting processed foods, sugary drinks, and too much caffeine because those can actually contribute to anxiety.
I know that's tough for a lot of people, but I know when I'm eating healthy, I definitely feel better, physically and mentally.
It's true. He also talks about staying hydrated, making sure you're drinking enough water throughout the day.
Water is essential for everything.
It really is, and it plays a huge role in how our bodies handle stress and maintain balance.
Okay, so we've got diet covered. What else?
Sleep is another big one. He emphasizes getting enough sleep and making sure it's quality sleep.
I know when I'm sleep deprived, my anxiety goes through the roof. What are some of McDonagh's tips for getting a good night's rest?
Consistency is key. Try to go to bed and wake up around the same time every day, even on weekends.
Easier said than done, but I know it makes a difference when I manage to stick to a routine.
It really does. And create a relaxing bedtime routine. A warm bath, reading a book, listening to calming music, anything to help you wind down.
Signaling to your body that it's time to rest and recharge.
Exactly. And avoid screens for at least an hour before bed.
Yeah, that blue light from screens can really mess with our sleep.
That's right. And make sure your bedroom is dark, quiet, and cool. A sleep sanctuary.
I love that. And by prioritizing good sleep, you're giving your mind and body the chance to recover and reset, which can make a huge difference in how you manage anxiety.
Absolutely. Now, what about those of us who might not be getting all the nutrients we need from food alone? Does McDonagh talk about supplements?
That's a great question. I'm curious about that too.
He does, but he always stresses talking to your doctor before starting any new supplements, especially if you have any health conditions.
That's really important.
Definitely. But he does mention a few supplements that have shown promising results in calming the nervous system and reducing anxiety symptoms.
I'm all ears. What are they?
One he talks about quite a bit is magnesium. It's often called the relaxation mineral.
Oh yeah, I've heard of magnesium. It's good for muscle relaxation, right?
That's right. It helps relax muscles, and it's actually involved in over 300 biochemical processes in the body, many of which are related to stress management and mood regulation.
Wow, that's impressive. So how do we get more magnesium in our diet?
Leafy green vegetables, nuts, seeds, dark chocolate, they're all great sources of magnesium.
Dark chocolate for anxiety. I'm on board with that.
Right. And if you're still not getting enough from food, you can talk to your doctor about a magnesium supplement.
And what about other supplements? Any others he mentions?
Calcium is another one. It plays a role in nerve function and muscle contraction.
I usually think of calcium for bone health, but I didn't realize it was connected to anxiety too.
It is. And just like magnesium, you can get calcium through your diet. Dairy products, leafy greens, and fortified foods are all good sources.
So it sounds like a balanced, nutritious diet is really important for our mental and emotional well-being.
Absolutely. And if you're worried you're not getting enough calcium, definitely talk to your doctor about whether a supplement might be a good idea.
This is all super helpful. Before we move on, I want to touch on something we haven't really explored yet. Laughter. McDonagh seems to be a big believer in the power of laughter for managing anxiety.
He is. And he's not just talking about a little chuckle here and there. He's talking about genuine, belly-aching laughter, the kind that makes you tear up.
Okay, that's a prescription I can get behind. But why does he emphasize laughter so much?
He believes laughter is way more than just a feel-good experience. It has real physiological benefits that can actually reduce anxiety.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
For one, laughter triggers the release of endorphins. Those are those amazing chemicals that act as natural painkillers and mood boosters.
It's just like a natural high without the bad side effects.
Exactly. And it also helps lower cortisol levels. Cortisol is that stress hormone that can really contribute to anxiety.
It's like a double win. You increase the good stuff and decrease the bad stuff.
That's right. And laughter even has physical benefits too. It can lower blood pressure, improve circulation, and even boost your immune system.
Wow, that's incredible. Sounds like we should all be getting a daily dose of laughter. But how do we actually do that? How do we make it a regular part of our lives?
McDonagh has some great ideas. Watch comedy shows, hang out with those friends who always make you laugh, read funny books, or even just watch funny videos online.
It's about making a conscious effort to find those moments of joy and humor.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to be silly. Don't take yourself too seriously. Be playful, let loose a little.
It's about tapping into that inner child, the one who loved to laugh and play without a care in the world.
Beautifully said. And when we can tap into that spirit, we make more room for laughter and lightness in our lives, which can have a profound impact on our overall well-being.
This has been such an insightful conversation. We've covered so much ground, from self-love and setbacks to lifestyle changes and the power of laughter. McDonagh really packs a lot into this book.
He does. And for me, what really stands out is his emphasis on choice. We're not prisoners of our anxiety. We have the power to choose how we respond, to challenge our fears, and to create a life that aligns with what we value.
It's about reclaiming your power and realizing you're capable of so much more than you might think.
Exactly. And he gives us such a clear, compassionate guide for doing just that. He gives us practical tools and techniques that anyone can use.
This deep dive has been packed with information, and I know it can feel a bit overwhelming at times. But remember, you don't have to do everything all at once.
That's right. Even small changes can make a big difference.
And one of the things I appreciate about McDonagh's approach is that he recognizes that recovery isn't a straight line. There will be bumps in the road, and that's okay. It's all part of the journey. And those setbacks, they're opportunities to learn and grow.
I couldn't agree more. As we wrap up part 2 of our deep dive into DARE, the new way to end anxiety, I'd love to leave our listeners with a question to think about. What's one small step you can take today to apply McDonagh's teachings to your own life?
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into DARE, the new way to end anxiety.
Yeah, we've really gone in depth, haven't we? Understanding how anxiety works, all those mechanics, and we've explored some powerful tools like that DARE response.
But one thing that keeps coming back to me like a recurring theme is that idea of self-love. It's not just some fluffy feel-good thing.
Yeah.
It's actually a core part of managing anxiety.
Absolutely. McDonagh really makes the case that if you don't have that self-love, well, you're just more vulnerable. Anxiety can really get a grip on you. You end up being super critical of yourself, always searching for validation from other people, and just terrified of messing up.
It's like you're always second-guessing yourself, never feeling like you're good enough, and expecting the worst to happen.
Exactly. That's why he focuses so much on cultivating self-love. It's like the foundation for everything else. When you truly value yourself, when you can see your strengths and accept your weaknesses, you can face those challenges with so much more resilience.
So how do we actually do that? How do we put self-love into practice? It can seem kind of, abstract.
McDonagh offers some very specific steps you can take. First up, self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would give a good friend.
It's like being your own best friend, giving yourself a pep talk, being supportive, even when you make mistakes.
Yes. And he also talks about setting boundaries, prioritizing what you need, making time for things that feed your soul, things that nourish your mind, body, and spirit.
Taking care of yourself. And it's not selfish at all. In fact, it's crucial for your well-being, which in turn helps you manage that anxiety.
Totally. McDonagh even suggests things like meditation, mindfulness, spending time in nature. Those things can really help you cultivate inner peace, a sense of calm and grounding, which can act as a buffer against those anxiety triggers.
It's like creating a sanctuary within yourself, a peaceful place to retreat to when everything feels chaotic.
I love that. And don't forget to do things that bring you joy, whether it's listening to music, spending time with loved ones, or expressing yourself creatively.
It's about reminding yourself what makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
And making time for those things, even when life feels overwhelming.
Exactly. And celebrate those small victories, those moments when you face a fear or try something new, or even just make it through a tough day.
It's about acknowledging your own strength and resilience, even when it's hard to see.
I love that. Remember that visualization exercise we talked about earlier? Imagining yourself standing under a waterfall of white light.
Yes, it said it's so peaceful and renewing.
McDonagh believes that can be really powerful for cultivating self-love. Just visualizing that warm, loving light pouring over you and saying, I love myself with each inhale. It can actually help rewire your brain for more self-acceptance and inner peace.
Just like showering yourself with love and compassion, creating a safe and supportive space within.
Exactly. And he suggests making it a part of your daily routine. Even a few minutes a day can have a powerful effect.
Making self-love a habit, a regular practice, not just something you think about once in a while.
I couldn't agree more. As we wrap up our deep dive into DARE, the new way to end anxiety, I think McDonagh's message boils down to this. You are not defined by your anxiety. You have the power to change your relationship with it. You can create a life that's full of more peace, more joy, and more freedom.
It's a message of hope, for sure. And he gives us such a clear and compassionate way to do just that. Real tools, real techniques, something we can all use.
Remember, recovery is not always a straight line. There will be setbacks. That's okay. It's part of the process. Those setbacks, they're opportunities for growth. Don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. And most importantly, be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. And for those of you who want to explore other resources, we've got an exciting announcement. We're giving away an audiobook. To enter, just head over to the comments section of our last episode and tell us which anxiety-related book you'd love to win and listen to.
We'll announce the winner in our next episode, so stay tuned.
This deep dive has been quite a journey, exploring McDonagh's amazing approach to anxiety. But remember, this is just the beginning. The real work starts now. It's about taking what we've learned and applying it to our own lives.
Until next time, be brave, be kind to yourselves, and dare to live a life free from anxiety's grip.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a topic we think you'll love. Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. Let's keep spreading positivity and building a happier life together. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.